Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm going to invite you to take that consciousness of peace, light, love that we heard of earlier, this consciousness of being blessed. And I'm going to invite you to take that into the silence here as we honor that divine presence within us, as we become aware of it. So just allow yourselves to get comfortable in your chairs. Allow the back to support you. Just allow yourself to feel fully supported. You might want to put your arms in your lap or your hands by your side, whatever is comfortable. And if you're comfortable, I invite you to close your eyes or keep them slightly open, just so that you can keep your awareness inside on that divine presence. And I want to share with you a reading this morning from Thich Nhat Hanh. Conscious breathing, a peaceful refuge. Our breathing is stable, solid ground in which we can take refuge. No matter what is going on inside of us, our breathing is always with us like a faithful friend. Whether we're carried away by our thinking, when we're overwhelmed by strong emotions, or when our mind is restless and dispersed, we can return to our breathing. We bring our body and mind together, and we collect, calm, and anchor our mind. We're aware of the air coming in and going out of our body. With awareness of our breathing, it naturally becomes light, calm, and peaceful. At any time of the day or night, whether we're walking, driving, working in the garden, or sitting at our desk, we can return to the peaceful refuge of our own breath. And that reading comes from his How to Connect book. So I invite you now just to focus on your breathing. Focus on that breath of light, that breath of love, that breath of peace, that breath that connects us to that divine presence within. And I invite you to choose just an intention for your breath today. Just focus on a single word, whatever that is that has resonated with you so far. Maybe that is the word of peace. Maybe that is the word of light. Maybe that is the word of love. And allow that word to become manifest for you in your thoughts and in your feelings. And just allow yourself to feel it throughout your entire body temple. As you breathe in that sacredness. And as you breathe out, you allow yourself to sink deeper into that feeling, into that knowing. Just allow yourself to come back to the breath over and over and over again, back to this intention that you've set for yourself. As we enter the silence for just a few moments now, enter the silence. I invite you to stay in this moment for just a little bit longer, bringing your mind back to that intention that you set for yourself with every breath. Breathing in, feel that sacredness of your intention. Breathing out, just allow that knowingness to expand. Allow yourself to feel that intention in every cell of your body. There's nowhere you have to go, nowhere you have to be. So just allow yourself a few more breaths. And when you're ready, you can start to bring your awareness back to your body temple. Maybe you start by just stretching or wiggling fingers and toes. Maybe you roll your shoulders, roll your neck, stretch it out. And then ever so gently, when you're ready, allow yourself to return to this space. Now, I don't know about you, but hearing that song by Denise Rozier this morning and going into this meditation is probably the most peaceful I've felt in the past few days. So it has been a little bit of a struggle for me this last week to think about peace with so much on my to-do list and so much coming my way. But we are continuing this celebration of our 2023 Advent season, and we're continuing this celebration of the rebirth of the Christ consciousness that is within. It's within you, it's within me, it's within all of us. So if you happen to just be now joining us on Facebook, again, we're following along in our sweetest Christmas booklet for our Advent season. So I invite you to partake of the readings and the scriptures that are in this book this week for peace. And if you say, hey, I'm far away, how do I get this book? You can go to unity.org and download a PDF version of this booklet too, if you happen to be joining us from far away. So this is the second Sunday of Advent. Traditionally here in Unity and throughout kind of the greater Christian tradition, we celebrate peace. We celebrate the many and varied ways that peace shows up in our lives. And we're particularly talking about spiritual peace, divine peace. How is that showing up in your life? So when I think about peace and when I think about the holiday season, and I think I mentioned this last year as well, because I gave the talk on peace then. My thoughts are really drawn to these peace-filled songs. I don't know about you, but songs like "O Holy Night," "It Came Upon a Midnight Clear," "O Little Town of Bethlehem," "Silent Night, Holy Night," these songs where you imagine almost like a sleeping baby Jesus, where you envision kind of that nativity scene, that kind of holding on to family and being connected, that kind of peacefulness, that peaceful presence. That's what I recall and call up, and that's my first sense of peace. It's like, oh yeah, peace and Christmas, like that's where it's at. The lyrics of such songs like these remind us of Jesus' teachings, his teachings of love, but also his gospel of peace. We're reminded of peace on earth, goodwill toward men. We're reminded that all is calm, all is bright. We're reminded that there is heavenly peace, love's pure light. So I invite you to take kind of the slow tempo and soothing melodies of your Christmas favorites as a reminder of that Christ consciousness within. These songs remind us that peace is within our grasp. Peace is always a choice that we can make here and now. But we have to pause. We have to take the time. We have to take the mindful awareness, the reflection, to go within and to be aware of it. So what is this thing called peace that I'm speaking of? Now, peace has different meanings for different cultural traditions, different people, different belief systems. You find this word in a lot of different languages, a kind of variation of this word. But ultimately, it is a divine idea. It's a spiritual idea that we are trying to make manifest here in this world. And as a divine idea, it permeates. It really resides within all of humankind, within any spiritual path that you look toward. It's present there. Now, it may not be expressed in the exact same way. And sometimes, yes, we have trouble expressing it. But it is there. Now, here in the West, when we look at this word peace, our immediate thing might be to think of how it relates to the idea of nonviolence or the end of hostilities, or we might be drawn to such terms like peace treaties, like those times where warfare ends and we're in a peaceful era. Or we might think about peace as being this inner peace, this idea of representing a state of harmony. Maybe it's a state of harmony or tranquility or serenity inside. Maybe it's between people, between groups of people. Maybe it's the peace and tranquility, the serenity that we find in certain situations. Peace can also refer to a silent stillness. We can even go so far as we have a phrase called holding one's peace, meaning to stay quiet and kind of keep your thoughts to yourselves, not push that kind of chaotic, non-peaceful thinking out into the world. Holding one's peace. It's an interesting saying. Now, I tend to follow a Buddhist tradition, and I also enjoy yoga, and so I started thinking about the varied ways that this shows up in other traditions, just to give you some examples here. In Hinduism and Buddhism, the Sanskrit word for peace is Shakti, and it shows up in many sacred texts and many sacred teachings. We also see it show up in spiritual mantras such as Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, where Om represents the sacred sound and essence of this supreme absolute of the divine presence. And then the word Shakti usually refers not to an outward peace, but to an inner peace. And it's repeated 3 times to represent the different realms of which it's present. The physical realm in the body temple, the mental realm in our consciousness, and the spiritual realm where it is a divine idea. In Islamic traditions, the word salam is the term for peace, and it usually speaks to a peace that is obtained by being in divine orderly flow, to surrendering or yielding to the will of God, to the divine presence. The word salam is closely related to the word Islam, and followers often strive to create a house or an abode of peace within their families, within their communities, and within larger society. But it's not just major religions that we see this idea of peace. Peace also shows up in more regional traditions. So, for example, peace is an important part to the Shinto tradition of Japan. The Reverend Takeuchi, the chief priest of the Kamigamo Shrine, says that peace and harmony is a central message of Shinto. Quote, "The essence of the idea is to lead the world to a peaceful world. Harmony and respect for each individual. This is the model for peace. There is one world, one garden." One world, one garden. Almost sounds like he could be right out of Unity, right? Speaking of our oneness. And ultimately, I saw this larger connection as I was looking at peace this year as the topic of this message, is that peace and being aware of our peace points to our oneness, and being aware of our oneness points back to peace. These are interconnected things. If we have access to this divine idea of peace, and I believe every single one of us does, then we can see peace in each other, and we can see our oneness and our connection. So just from those brief examples, we can see how this divine idea, the spiritual idea, permeates humankind. It comes in through our different spiritual pathways. Even if we manifest different expressions of it, even if we sometimes struggle to manifest it. But it's this divine idea that I want to explore a little bit further, because I think it's really important, especially as it relates to how our way shower Jesus might have viewed this idea of peace. What are the layers in which he understood this idea of peace? What did it mean when he taught his disciples to be peacemakers? So, if the basic information about Jesus' biography is to be believed from the New Testament scriptures, Jesus was of the Jewish faith. He was born and raised in the Jewish tradition. So, from what we can gather from the New Testament, especially the Gospels, Jesus did not intend to create a religion called Christianity, right? It's those that came after him that started to write about the creeds and the dogmas and the theology of Jesus rather than necessarily the teachings about Jesus. Jesus simply wanted to elaborate, to give a different perspective on his understanding of his Jewish heritage, of his Jewish traditions, of the teachings of Judaism. So we here in Unity focus on the teachings of Jesus rather than the teachings about Jesus. As Reverend Ron mentioned last Sunday, Jesus is viewed as Unity's way shower. What is a way shower? A way shower is someone that embodied the Christ consciousness, this awareness of God mind, this awareness of divine ideas, this awareness of that divine presence, and then taught about and demonstrated that awareness, that Christ consciousness, to others. We certainly can't say Jesus is the only way shower. There have been a lot of different teachers throughout the ages who have demonstrated this consciousness. But I wanted to look at what did this idea of peace mean during Jesus' time. So early on in writing this message, I wanted to go back to the original Hebrew word for peace. And this is the word shalom. And it's found in the Hebrew scriptures. And people might say, well, why are you going to the Hebrew scriptures? Why are you not referencing the New Testament? And the reason why is because Jesus didn't have access to this New Testament, which had yet to be written. He was referencing the Hebrew scriptures when he taught. So I wanted to know how this word might inform us about how Jesus viewed this idea of peace and his call to become peacemakers. So shalom, this word can mean the absence of conflict, much like our word peace, yet it incorporates many different layers. It's so much deeper than simply this idea of nonviolence. It can refer to something that is whole or complete. It's important. It can refer to the idea of restoring something to be whole, restoring something to be complete. It can refer to the well-being of a person, situation, or community. And as we know today, it's a word that's used in greeting to say hello or goodbye, but it has so many much more deeper layers in terms of wishing that person peace, wishing that person well-being anytime you say shalom. The word shalom is not passive. It can also be used to describe actions, as I just mentioned, the active ability to restore wholeness and completeness, the actions to restore. The actions to work together, the actions to heal relationships between individuals, within oneself, and within groups of people. So knowing this idea that wholeness, completeness, another kind of this idea, you could say, of oneness, because it really is. How does that work together with this? Knowing this, do you wish to cultivate more of this divine idea that we call peace? Do you wish to cultivate more feelings and more actions of shalom? So during the holiday season, yes, it is a wonderful season. It is the season of lights. It is the season of joy. It's also the season of Hanukkah, so happy Hanukkah to all of our Jewish friends out there. Their season of Hanukkah just started on December 7th. It's also the season of Advent. It's the season where we see this possibility of peace, this possibility of shalom on display in the external world. We see it in the songs we sing, in the stories we tell, in the movies we watch during this holiday season, in the gifts we give, in our acts of kindness. We see it on display during this season now more than ever. But this is the idea behind Unity's Advent, is not that it has to be limited to this season. Advent, the cultivation of peace, the cultivation of shalom, can be every day. Jesus called us to be peacemakers. So we know that external demonstrations of peace are indeed fleeting. Okay? And even though we wonderfully embrace all these peaceful things that we see outside of us, we're truly seeking something lasting, something that is steadfast and sustained. And you might ask, where can you find such a peace? The short answer is within yourself. That's where that divine presence moves and lives and has its being. That's where it starts. In the revealing word, Charles Fillmore. See if you guys are still awake this morning. He defined peace as harmony and tranquility derived from awareness of the Christ consciousness. You could go on to say an awareness of God mind, awareness of divine ideas. Fillmore saw this connection between an awareness or an awakening of this Christ consciousness within, whatever name you want to call it, and experiencing peace in the body and in the mind. These two things are connected. Peace and Christ consciousness happen together. So how does one cultivate such lasting and steadfast awareness of our peace? We do so by going within. Reflection, contemplation, prayer, meditation. We do this so that we continuously remind ourselves of the peace that we innately possess. And that we're able to stay in awareness of this peace. Prayer isn't just something that you do in the morning when you wake up or before you go to bed. Prayer is your thoughts throughout the day. It's that mentality that you hold. It's bringing you back to that awareness. And it's through this spiritual awareness that we can see peace as being an aspect of being in divine flow, of being of flowing within the laws, of the universe and the laws of principle, the laws that govern our lives, spiritual laws. So we know that peace, completeness, wholeness, harmony, tranquility, all these ideas surrounding peace, they don't come through material things. Although we do get to see glimpses and glimmers of this divine idea in our material creations. Rather, peace resides within us as expressions of God, as spiritual beings having a human experience that, yes, is whole and complete. Thank you. Jesus' teachings call us to be peacemakers. We each have a choice. Will you choose peace? Namaste and shalom.